Hello folks, Mundane Man here again, and today we are working on the old Ram 1500. It's a 2012 with the 5.7 liter Hemi in it. Today we're doing a relatively simple job where I'm going to replace out the battery in it. The battery's 7 years old, and I'm having issues where if the truck sits for days or weeks at a time, the battery is drawing down. Now, I would say if I had monkeyed with any of the wiring, I would have a concern about some kind of voltage leak somewhere, but I'm pretty sure just based on the age of this battery that it is seeing the end of its normal life. Usually batteries these days, you get 5 years out of them now. This one's lasted 7. It's been in relatively pristine conditions in the sense it's always been in a heated garage, never been drained down up until lately when it's been draining itself down. So I've been lucky enough to get 7 years out of this battery, so we're going to change it out and put in a new one. So let's get at it. So the battery I'm going to replace the existing dyeing unit with is a Kirkland, so it's from Costco, and the reason I purchased this one was essentially based on price and availability. I also had put one in my Jeep Patriot of the same type, and it's been going strong for a couple years, so I have no issue with the Kirkland batteries. The long-term test I have with this type of battery is the one I have in my Jeep Patriot, which is also a Kirkland battery from Costco, and I've had no issues with that over the last 2 years, so I'm happy with the quality of this product. This particular battery was $150 Canadian plus a $10 core charge, so I can take the battery back and get that $10 back in my pocket again. It is a H7, which is the recommended model for this, and that's basically around post placement and how it fits within the truck. The same with the fitment code there, and it's a 790 cranking amps battery. The original OEM battery was 730, so this battery is just slightly bigger and was manufactured in 10 of 19, so it's a couple years, sorry, it's a couple months old, but you're not going to get generally a fresh battery right off the manufacturing line anyways. Why don't we go through the process now of putting this battery in the truck. Okay, so I'm using a number 10 socket and on a ratchet, and let's loosen the negative post off first. Negative first usually helps prevent any shorts that you may cause when you're screwing around with a battery here. We'll try and keep that away from the battery post. And do the positive side. Hold that back. And we've got this little thermal blanket that sits around the battery that just lifts straight off. And down below there is a number 10 bolt holding down the battery hold down bracket. I'm just getting a longer extension for that one. It's also a number 10 socket. It's a pretty long one. There's the bracket itself. It just kind of sits on the battery tray holding the lip of the battery down so it doesn't bounce around. Now we're going to lift the old sucker out. And batteries are fairly heavy, so just be careful. And here's our new Kirkland battery. Drop her into the hole like that. And there's a bit of a catch lip on the battery holder as well, so make sure the battery is slid in place nice and tight. And then you can put your battery bracket back in. Just take some wiggling around to get it lined up in there. Tighten the bracket back down. Don't need to reef on her too hard and make it too tight. Now see, the battery's nice and tight in there. Now before you put your battery cables back on, make sure you put your blanket back in, because if you don't, you'll be doing the job twice. That just slides in there like that. And you can get rid of these little plastic covers that come with the battery. And the reverse order on your cables, making sure you put the positive on first. Looking for my shorter extension, which somehow in 30 seconds I've lost here. There it is. Some days you spend more time looking for your tools than actually using them. One thing I also like to do is just put a little lithium grease on the posts. Kind of helps against corrosion and keeps your post clean. Now, before I put the grease on, I'm just going to take my battery post cleaner and just clean up the posts a bit. Take off any stuff that may have got on the post at the factory. Maybe they put some kind of corrosion protector on it. But you always want to make sure you got a nice, good contact between the battery cables and the battery. And I'm going to do the same with the battery cables themselves. You just take the top of this apart. It's going to fight me here. I got it. I think I'll put some lithium grease on that too. So just in the posts, you take this wire brush that comes with the post cleaner and just kind of clean up your cables. If you've got any gunk or corrosion on them, green pus, it'd be good to dip them in a baking soda mixture just to eat away, neutralize some of that battery acid that's on them. I didn't have that problem because I kept them greased up for the whole time I've had the truck. That was my funny bone, and that was not funny. So just kind of clean those up like that. And just a little bit of grease on the posts. And reverse order, we will put the cables back on. Positive first. Tighten that back down. Now you want to be careful you don't really reef on the post, because if you do, you could snap the post inside the battery and then you're buying a new battery again. So tighten down the clamp so that the post is nice and tight. This is part of the cable that came with the truck, so I just put that positive cover back on. Now we'll stick the negative back on. There we go. Nice and tight. And then just button down your cover. So the big test, of course, is will it start? Now the battery should be fully charged from the factory, but of course it's been sitting on a shelf for a couple months, so it may be low. I would suggest that you run your vehicle for a while, make sure the battery's charged right up. And I'm going to put my voltmeter on it and make sure we actually are seeing the battery charging, just to make sure it wasn't a problem with the alternator. I'm 99% sure it was not a problem with the alternator because the battery's draining down just when it's parked. But when we put the voltmeter on, we should see around 14 volts on the battery when the vehicle's running, because that shows that the alternator is actually putting out. So let's see if she'll start. Cranked right over, just like I would have expected it to do. meter and check the battery. I'm using a fluke meter here. Just make sure it's set to DC. Mine says V volts DC on it. And you can see right there, I'm not sure if there's too much glare, but it is showing 14.35 volts. So that just proves that the alternator is working. It is putting out and charging the battery, and that the battery had enough charge in it to start the vehicle, and we're going to leave it run for a while, make sure that battery's charged right up. I just opened my garage door a bit. Wouldn't want you to be witnessing some kind of snuff video. You always want to make sure you get your exhaust gases outside. So I do have this battery tester that I've used in other videos, and basically it tests the strength of your battery. And I thought just for fun I would put it on the old battery and see how well it reacts to putting a load on it. Basically this has an element in it that puts a heavy load on the battery, and then the meter can tell you the condition of the battery after. So let's give her a shot. Positive on positive. Negative on negative. Sounds pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised. So right now the meter is showing about 11.5 volts, so that is lower than what is expected. Should be it's a 12 volt battery. So I'm going to put a load on it. You hold the power button for 10 seconds, and you got to be careful, this gets hot too. So when I release it, because this is a 730 cold crank battery, it is just sitting right on the border of the after the load on the weak side of the battery. So while I probably could have got away with this battery by just driving the vehicle more and not letting it sit so long, it was getting to the end of its useful life anyways. So I'm happy with the results that I did replace the battery, and that this one is, after 7 years old, seeing the end of its useful life. So with that is the end of this video. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.